My guest this week is Tom Scharpling. Tom is a comedian, a television writer, and producer for such shows as Monk, Tom Goes to the Mayor, Difficult People, and What We Do in the Shadows. He has been a voice actor on The Simpsons, Adventure Time, and he also had a permanent role playing Steven's dad, Greg, on the Steven Universe animated show. Tom's also directed music videos for The New Pornographers, MGMT, and Real Estate, and is the author of the national best-selling memoir, It Never Ends. But most of us know Tom as the host of The Best Show, which started in 2000 on WFMU and has since gone independent, and currently celebrating its 25th year of mirth, music, and mayhem. Considered by many the godfather of podcasting, the show has been a weekly 3-hour comedy, call-in, and talk radio show, which has showcased hundreds and hundreds of frighteningly weird conversations between John Wurster of Superchunk, Bob Mould Band and Mountain Goats, and Tom. The show has been a big comfort and influence in my life, and it has never taken its foot off the pedal. And it is my great pleasure to welcome the Revolutions Per Movie, Tom Scharpling. Hi, Tom.
Hey, how are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing all right. I'm glad we're talking about Neil Young. I mean, that's a positive thing, right?
Yes, it's a very positive thing. It's the most positive thing.
Yeah. And congrats on 25 years of The Best Show. That's just incredible.
Oh, thank you. It's kind of weird that it happened, but it happened. I never planned on that, but sometimes you turn around and here you are with half my life under my belt doing whatever that thing is I've been doing.
Well, it's so funny. Doug Gillard from Guided by Voices turned me on to the show in the van, and sitting next to Robert Pollard, reenacting stuff from your show, whether it was Chocolageddon or Rock and Roll, kind of did my head in. I was like, Bob is obsessed with this show too.
No, Bob, especially Chocolageddon, pressed Bob's button somehow. That was, we heard he was going to actually make the thing based on how it was described. It's a crazy recipe for a cake or something on it? I can't even remember.
Well, you've done plenty of these every week, but yeah, it was a dessert that had like cake and ice cream and syrup on it, and you lost weight as you ate it, and you ate it with a chocolate spoon.
That's right. Yes, I remember hearing Bob was going to make it at one point.
He was. Absolutely. It was, we were writing it down because Bob would be like, did you get that? Okay, we got to do that.
That's so funny.
But, you know, it's kind of amazing. For a lot of people, you have been like the longest running artist, like for me personally, that I've listened to. Like it's been like that long, since 2002 to now, not taking a break, being there. And I just want to thank you for that, because the show means a lot to a lot of people.
Oh man, that's so nice of you to say. It really, it's the people caring about it is what bridges the gaps when it's hard to ramp up the desire to do it. So not that don't desire it, but real life intrudes, and I appreciate all that, and the support has always meant a lot from you. So thank you so much.
Well, what about when people weren't supporting the show when you first started at WFMU? That station is so loaded with the listenership being very particular, even the DJs being of a certain ilk. You come on with a 3-hour comedy talk show music thing, and out of the gate, people aren't getting it. Like, how did you show up week after week against all that?
I didn't care. I didn't think they were necessarily funny. It's not like, oh, well, they're funnier than I am. That wasn't true, and not not trying to boast here, but it's not a place that's built on humor, WFMU.
No.
So we're filling a void, and honestly, when nobody cared about the show for the first few years, I just knew I knew of people who liked it, and that was kind of enough. And I could feel weird little pockets of people who weren't local, because this WFMU for the longest time was a local radio station. It was not this international thing that happened over time when the technology caught up. But initially, it was a show for New Jersey and New York, a station for New Jersey and New York. So I was fine with it, and yeah, it made John and I were doing our thing, and John Worster and I, and it was just we were laughing. That was enough for me. So
Yeah. Well, I think something that you both do, which has a lot in common with, I know of your love of SCTV and Chris Elliott,
mhm.
but they also did the same thing where if you didn't know who Martin Downey Jr. was, it was still funny. If you hadn't seen an Ingmar Bergman
Mhm.
film yet as a kid, it was still funny. And I feel like you and John, whether you're talking about, the drummer in Captain Beefheart or something that maybe people don't even know who you're
Brumbo.
referencing to, exactly. It's
Yes.
still funny.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. It was always designed to nobody is supposed to get 100% of the references. It
Right.
just doesn't, it would be impossible. I
Yes.
don't get 100% of the reference because John will reference things once in a while that he's that's more his thing than my thing and vice versa. So, but the whole point of it is that you find the parts that you understand and then you kind of can fill in the blanks for the other ones. Yeah. So, oh, just the one thing I was going to say was doing the show locally, and then there were just like these weird little pockets of somebody in Toronto writing saying they like it, somebody in England saying they like, just these little like pins on a map, and it wasn't of the sheer volume of people, but it was just showing there was this interest in it, and that kept us going too.
Yeah, I remember it was one of the first shows that I found an archive of. And that was really mind bending that I was like, oh my gosh, I can go back to the beginning.
Yeah,
it's so quaint now. But at the time, it was like, what? I didn't know.
it really there's a lot of doing a thing every week, 3 hours a week, 25 years for the most part. Yikes, that's a lot of blabbing and a lot of archive there.
Yeah.
So when somebody says they've been there since the beginning, you have my admiration and also my sympathy a little bit because you're hanging out with me for half my life.
And the show has changed over the years, but the constant is your conversations with the callers and your calls with John Worster, these long form calls. How's it changed since the first one you did rock and roll to now? Do you put the calls together the same way, or has it changed over the years?
It has changed. John really likes to surprise me with stuff, and more than ever, it's like we'll kick around concepts, but then John goes and figures out things that are just going to be surprising, funny curveballs, all things. And we've done it enough that I know how to respond to those in service of the call. I'm not going to undercut what he's trying to build. So it becomes this thing where he figures the parameters out, and then we both exist within the parameters that he figured out. That's the best way I could describe a 2025 Scharpling and Worcester call.
It's still so exciting as a listener when you can hear the surprise from each of you. Like when you're surprised and you bounce it back to John, and then he's kind of shocked by your reaction. It's
Yes.
one of the greatest things.
Oh, that's I'm so glad you pick up on, because that's the most fun for me is when we're just so in the moment together and something we're just having fun. It's really just the two of us having fun going back and forth and trying to make each other laugh, and we just happen to be doing it in front of a lot of people.
Right.
But it's really no different than when we talk on the phone, honestly. We just now there's people are hearing the conversation.
Well, congrats again. It's every week. I love it. And what's
Oh,
so interesting about Neil Young is that I was really late to Neil Young. He was on MTV. That was like my first introduction to him. I didn't have a cool uncle or an older brother to say, check out Tonight's Night or Zuma. It was like the Rockabilly album. What's that album called?
everybody's rocking.
That was my introduction to Neil Young, right? cluttering up
Mm-hmm.
MTV for me and when I'm waiting for stuff to come on.
Sure.
But I learned about Neil Young through your side podcast so far.
Wow.
Truthfully,
Okay.
like I didn't own Zuma, I didn't own Tonight's
Mm-hmm.
Night, I didn't know about the Ditch trilogy. I'd read Shaky because, like you, I'll read any book about
Mm-hmm.
rock, whether I like the artist or not.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
it's so weird. I never had anyone be like, come this way until your show. What was your introduction to Neil Young?
Mine would be maybe the opposite of yours then, because I can remember being I was at a flea market on Route 18 in New Jersey. There was the Route 18 flea market, and it had, like every flea market would have, a food court, and it would have somebody selling antique furniture. But then there was always a couple people selling records. And one of the people selling records at that Route 18 flea market turned in was Megaforce Records. Was That was their first location. The label that put out the first Metallica records was at a flea market on Route 18 in East Brunswick, New Jersey. And I'm pretty sure they were Megaforce at that point. We're going now. Yeah, we're probably talking about 1979, 1980. So I I knew Neil Young from the radio, just Heart of Gold, and
Sure.
um maybe maybe just knowing a few songs from what was just called rock radio then, what would be called classic rock radio. Now then, it was just the radio. Then it's the rock station. So they would play certain Neil Young songs, Cinnamon Girl, the I'm trying to think what other. But it was just not even. It would be like, really just like Heart of Gold, Cinnamon Girl, Old Man, like songs like that. Um, were the ones I mean, Southern Man and Old Man. He liked talking about men. Um, so it was. So I knew who he was. I liked what I heard, and I remember being at the flea market and seeing on the ground in the record store a pair of 3D glasses that said Russ Never Sleeps on them, because there was a 3D portion to the movie Russ Never Sleeps. There they are. That's them. I feel
Yes.
like I'm 9 again. Um, so yeah, I was probably 9 or 10. So I saw them, and then either they gave them to me or I paid 50 cents for them. And then that was just so intriguing to me that there was this movie that because I would go to the library and read Rolling Stone issues and read them off the microfiche if they weren't in the print. If they didn't have the print copies there, I would literally go and get the spool and scroll through and read certain things. So I was just chasing this stuff down, and yeah, then I guess Rust Never Sleeps would have been the first one I bought, the first Neil Young album I bought, and then the second one would have been Live Rust, which was a 2 LP set. That Live Rust is more or less what it's almost like the soundtrack to Rust Never Sleeps is Live Rust, because it's a career spanning live uh, 2 LP set. Rust Never Sleeps is those are new songs on that. So Live Rust has the old stuff and some of the Rust Never Sleeps stuff, if I remember correctly. I love both of them. Ran them both into the ground, and those were the perfect kind of primer for Neil Young, and to get the best. I think it's the best version of Neil Young, and it's when I fell in love with Neil Young were those 2 records.
Yeah, they're amazing. And again, if someone had handed me that and said also, by the way, Devo is attached to, come up with a title, I
Hmm.
would have been all over it.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I was always confused about Neil Young he'd like tour playing songs not off a current album and then put them out. So he'd put out like a new album would be a live album of all unreleased songs, like Live Rust versus Rust Never Sleeps versus when it was filmed, and like
Hmm.
On Rust Never Sleeps, the album, you don't really hear the audience, and it's part studio. It gets really cluttery with the way Neil puts out his work.
Rust Never Sleeps is one of those hybrid records where performed live, taken back into the studio, and made release worthy. Like they did stuff afterwards to it, adding tracks or cleaning things up to make it a new album that doesn't have crowds on it, but it has all the energy of a live performance. It's kind of the sweet spot. And other people do that. Um, King Crimson has done that for the last bunch of years where they'll release albums that were recorded on stage, but there's zero audience sound. I do believe they go back and fix fix things here and there on them. So it's kind of an interesting way to get the energy of a live performance, but the scope and precision of a studio record.
And how far did you follow Neil? I mean, are you still buying like these new reissues he's putting out of like Chrome Dreams and all this stuff? I mean, it's overwhelming.
Chris, I never got off the train.
Okay.
I mean, I've gotten off the train and stood for 5 minutes and taken a breather, but I never walked away. I would get back on. Hey, the train's leaving. Okay, I'll get back on the train. He is to when what Bob Dylan is to a lot of people, that's what Neil Young is to me. He's my Bob Dylan, and he just, to me, it was always lyrically, Neil Young is not, he's not doing what Bob Dylan does. Neil Young, he writes, his lyrics are to me so pure that he's writing folk music lyrically. Like his lyrics, Heart of Gold is no different than You Are My Sunshine in terms of its simplicity and perfection. He's not a wordsmith, but he is direct with what he wants to say, and he knows how to say it in a clean way. He's about, imagine if Bob Dylan changed sounds a lot. He basically, Bob Dylan has done what he does musically. Of course, some things sound different than others, but he's never vacillated wildly in terms of genre, really, outside of like maybe a thing here or there. Neil takes full detours into genre, especially the stuff in the 80s. I think it's always done it though. Him doing a record with Booker T
Right.
and the MGs, and then there was just the one record, the one I'm blanking on the name of that he did. Man, what is there's one that's like, is it Story Tone? It might be Story Tone, which is kind of orchestral arrangements of things. And there's that. There's him doing the record that he recorded at Third Man in one of the old vintage booths that you could do back then, where you're like, hey, in the 40s, make your own record. And you go in and do it. That record was called A Letter Home. A
Okay.
Letter Home, I believe it is, where he utilized that recording booth that they have at Third Man in Nashville and made an album on it. So like he plays with form more than anybody who's in that position, I believe. And succeed, fail, kind of split the difference, whatever. He still just does the next one. And he's also very smart in terms of the way he would know, he would know when it's time to do the next thing. He knows his settings. It's like an acoustic album that'll be a crowd pleaser, a Crazy Horse album, a weird album. Like he knows how to space those out. He never leans into one to one of those three in a row. He'll follow he'll follow a rocking album with a quiet album. Like he just knows, like, even just I'm looking at the discography. Like Harvest was the scariest thing to him ever, because he was suddenly, that he said it famously, he did not want to be in the middle of the road. He wanted to be in the ditch. So then he does On the Beach, Tonight's the Night, Time Fades Away. Like those are just those are like fair weather fan repellent, uh like a spray that would scare away people who just want Heart of Gold. He knows, he follows Rust Never Sleeps with Hawks and Doves, which is a really kind of insular album, and then he follows that with the Reactor, which was his last Reprise album before he did his ill-fated Geffen
Right.
journey, which is like a really thudding, dumb, Crazy Horse record. And he also, the people around him didn't understand the appeal of Crazy Horse. That's also one of the things.
Yes.
Like the other guys like David Crosby was just like, why are you playing with these guys? They're not good. Like they are not good players. But Neil sees the vibe, knows the vibe. That's the vibe he wants. So
yeah, it's amazing. The sound of Crazy Horses, even their harmonies in this film, it's so weird and just I'm like only they kind of do that weird little like a little off
yeah.
kilter warbly
Mm-hmm.
sound, but it's warm. And it seems like from listening to the show, like now I own most of these records. That's why I was asking about
Okay.
it. Like I got obsessed with Neil Young, and it's so fun to have an artist like this that late in my life I'm hearing this for the first time, like on the beach, and just being like, oh my God, like what a gift
Yeah.
for me to hear this now. But it also feels like they're often records that he made that people at the time just weren't ready for. And it seems like he's like even like making the record with Pearl Jam. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, it's like, oh God. But there's some moments on that record when I listen to it now
Yeah.
that I'm like, I could probably appreciate it more than at the time he was doing it.
Yeah. And he played a couple songs from that when he did this acoustic tour a year or two ago. He was playing songs from that, just stripped down though. And it was kind of like the bringing the value of these songs back, because what I would call a minor album. Mirror Ball is a
Yeah.
not a major Neil work, and you could make the case that up as a part of the thing I was explaining, where he knows where his bread's buttered, gets a chance to do a record with Pearl Jam, let's do it. And the guys from what I have parsed from things, it's like he didn't know Pearl Jam's music really.
Right.
They I think they wanted him to have known it more than he knew it. He was just he's the kind of guy, he hears one thing and I like it, let's do something. Like when Sonic Youth opened for him, he heard Expressway to Your Skull. I don't think he heard anything else. He heard that song. They're popular. Let's get them on the tour.
Right. I saw that tour? You saw that tour, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, the audience was not having it when I saw it.
No, they were not. I saw them where they are from, and people did not want it. It was a local show for Sonic Youth that the fans not into it, because also the Social Distortion was on that
That's
bill
so
too.
weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, those fans. He's also saddled with some of the dumbest fans also, who it's not as difficult to follow this guy as the reputation would make you believe sometimes. People, oh my God, you're a fan of Neil, and it's like he puts one album out there, he's playing songs from the other one. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so it's just like, let the guy go. The guy's an artist. He's going where it takes him. And he's not just going to do the thing all the time. And also, the other stuff he's playing is great. It's not his biggest hits necessarily.
No,
So,
and didn't you go see something that was basically, it was billed as, I'm going to play obscure stuff.
yeah, that's the one where he played the mirror ball
Right.
stuff. So,
And the
like,
audience was, most of them
they
were
were
just like,
yelling for old man.
yes.
Like, it was so annoying because it was crystal clear. He made his intentions for these shows, said it out loud. Going to go deeper in the catalog. This is not a greatest hits
Right.
tour. Going to be playing deeper cuts, and there was clearly a theme to it. And clearly, those people did not get the memo. They chose not to read the memo and thought that they could just change his mind by yelling "old man" over and over through a show. And then when he played Heart of Gold for the audience, his enthusiasm level dropped so much,
Right.
and the audience's enthusiasm level went through the roof because, hey, he's playing a hit.
Right.
Like, okay, well, who cares?
Yeah. So now they can get their car keys out and start walking out.
Yeah, and the way he was playing these songs, because look, some of them eluded me. I didn't look at a set list beforehand, and I'm trying to place some things. I'm not placing them because they're reinterpreted. First, he's playing the song on a pipe organ all of a sudden.
Right.
That was a full band arrangement. But again, his songwriting is so clear, and it's like ice water to me, his lyrics. And you could just sit there and let him tell you the story of the song he's playing, and you can get something out of it right now in the moment. The only thing you can't do is sing along to it, because you don't. It's not something you have. It's not one of the songs you've listened to 1,000 times. He could have played all new songs like that, and it would have been perfectly fine.
Right. Isn't it weird to think that Neil Young is rock and roll's greatest filmmaker? His body of work, has anyone made more that's a musician?
I can't handle that he directed Rust Never Sleeps.
Yes.
And to me, it's the best concert film ever. I know people say Stop Making Sense is the one. Stop Making Sense. They said when they were making Stop Making Sense, it needs to be as good as Rust Never Sleeps. Like, that was Jonathan Demme knew that and wanted it to be great the way that's great. And that to me says everything you need to know. If Rust Never Sleeps does not get a lot of traction with a lot of people because they don't know what it actually is, and they don't know how weird and fun and interesting it is. And they just assume, well, Stop Making Sense is the best ever. So it just isn't. It's like, I'll put Rust Never Sleeps against it every time. And he's also directed Journey Through the Past, a really weird kind of impressionistic documentary back in the early 70s. He did that.
I got this after you talked about it on the show, and yeah, it's a mess, but I'm kind of obsessed with the sides on this. It's like there's like choral singing and weird. It's like there's stuff he's not on. It's just like a collage.
There's a Pet Sound song on there. Like, it's just the soundtrack to the record. He directed a movie that came out a few years ago about the making of Harvest. He sat on this footage for 50 years. And it's honestly, I would put Harvest Time. Harvest Time is like the Beatles thing that came out. Get Back.
Yes.
It's like that, but it's watching somebody going up. It's watching him on the ascent. The songs are pouring out of him. He is just in the pocket to a bizarre degree where everything he does is amazing. And you're getting to see it in real time, watching him grow and ascend. So, but he directed all these things. He's directed more great movies than plenty of directors have. So.
Yeah, 16 films as Bernard Shaky.
Yes, which is his cinematic alter ego, Bernard Shaky.
16 films. That's incredible.
Yeah. Muddy Track is a weird one that he did. It's watching a band not getting along. It's like a late 80s Crazy Horse thing. I think they're on tour in Europe. They are fighting and wondering where the magic is going. It's yeah, he's a very curious guy in that regard where and he also doesn't he just doesn't believe in limitations clearly. When he wrote books, they were weird and kind of unsatisfying in a way, but that was him writing a book.
Right.
That's how it goes. These things are just like well, Human Highway is the ultimate example, which is not a good movie. Just not good.
It looks cool.
It looks cool. It's got weird, great moments in it. It kind of doesn't add up. I don't know if anybody would think it would add up.
But is that because of his sense of humor? Because even in this film, the first 7.5 minutes, like watching the beginning of the film, there's two things that really strike me at the beginning of the film. One is that the title Rust Never Sleeps comes up twice. It comes up once and then it goes away and then it comes up and I'm like, okay, I've never seen that before. Did you make a mistake or did you? And then, during the live show, they had these Star Wars.
The Jawas
Yes,
from Star Wars are the road crew is dressed like Jawas with glowing eyes underneath their brownish red robes, and he was calling them the Road Eyes,
right.
which is a reference to a Neil song.
And it takes 7.5 minutes for them to like kind of put microphones up, and they're like, it's a lot of slapstick. Like they're trying to raise the microphone, and there's this really loud Foley work that's just like
Bizarre.
it's and you can tell that Neil is probably up hiding underneath that giant amp. This might be his favorite part of the show. It's just being able to do a skit.
He is in heaven with this movie and with this performance because he was 78, shot it in 78, I think at Cow Palace in San Francisco. And he decided, like, I'm sure Devo rubbed off on him, just wanting to do something more theatrical and something performative and strange with some concepts going around in it. So he like cracks this thing wide open. He makes this movie. It's a concert film, but he has all these flourishes throughout that are so artificial. Like you said, the Foley work. He walks on stage, you hear his feet. You hear the sounds clearly added in afterwards. These are not real sounds. The movie starts. They're setting the stage up for the performance. And the stage design is oversized, enormous amps that are like 20 feet high, a giant microphone. At one point, there's a giant tuning fork comes out, and then they just like move a piece of equipment, and he's under it, where he must have been sitting there, couldn't have been happier that
Yes.
he's on stage the whole time, and then they reveal him, and then he comes out and plays his oldest songs, acoustic with a 12 string. He's playing some of the very earliest songs he did. I Am a Child and Sugar Mountain. Yeah, and it's just like it's so stripped down. Also, he cut his hair, which is the one of the biggest things. Russ Never Sleeps is it's a guy who's, you know, 15 years into a career at this point. He's seen so many things, Buffalo Springfield and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and then he had his solo career, and then he had one of the biggest albums of the 70s in it, and then he tried to submarine that, and then in 74 they do this big CSNY tour that was just the most bloated thing, and none of them were happy, and it's going counter to everything he's trying to do at that point. And by 78, he's so down on he's so down on where his bandmates went. Like the Crosby, Stills, and Nash part of it. He's trying to go. I mean, that's the whole concept of rust never sleeps. He's just like, if you sit still, you rust, and rust does not take a break. So you got to keep moving, because if you slow down, rust inevitably shows up and does its thing. But he's got to keep moving, and that's like why it's better to burn out than fade away. That comes from the Rust Never Sleeps album. That lyrical phrase comes from it's hey hey my, or my hey hey. That one's acoustic, one's electric, and they kind of bookend the show more or less. He was at a point where he was trying to make such a break from his peers. He's excited about the young guys. He's excited about Devo. He's excited about where all these things are going. He really said he didn't follow punk, but he followed what he followed, and Devo made sense to him. And I think he got so much from them. He goes, cuts his hair. Neil Young with a famous long hair. This movie, he's got short hair. And that in and of itself is a statement. Comes out, plays old songs, and it's like the beauty of Rust Never Sleeps for me is that he's not turning his back on the past. He's acknowledging the past. The movie starts off and they play A Day in the Life. That, like, the building, like while the Jawas or the roadies are setting the stage up, they're playing A Day in the Life, pumping through the building. And then at another part, when they're setting stuff up again, it's the Woodstock stage announcements are getting played.
Right.
Of just like, don't take the brown acid and the brown, like if we all believe, maybe the rain will stop. Like, no rain. Like that. So he's acknowledging this is his past. His guitar strap is basically, it's got doves on it and peace symbols and a Jimi Hendrix button. He was never saying I was not this person. He's saying it's almost like there's a totem pole on stage at one point, and I know, look, maybe it's whatever that is in 2025, maybe not the greatest look to go take Native American things and just kind of use them as props. I do believe he does all of it with the utmost respect and reverence. Whether that's appropriate, that's not for me to say. I'm not the one whose culture is being utilized. But the idea of a totem pole is that this is telling the story. It kind of makes a lot of sense. Every one of these things he went through is a part of the story. It's another portion of the totem pole. And this is where he's at now. He's not pretending this other stuff didn't happen. He's just saying, and this is where I am today. And there's a song called Thrasher.
Yes.
Thrasher is basically him saying to Crosby, Stills, and Nash, I'm done. You guys are stuck in the past. You guys are like, I'm moving on. I don't need. I'm not you. You guys are where you are. I'm not there. I'm going forward. You guys are in the past. It's and then he's mentioning Johnny Rotten in the songs. Like, he's just like, that's its own thing. He's really trying to be contemporary without like it being some sort of like weird novelty thing. That it's not like he's putting a disco record out, which so many people did at this time.
Yeah.
He's not doing a disco record. He's doing his thing, and it's kind of the culmination of it. It's got the acoustic stuff, and it's got the Crazy Horse at I feel peak of power. Crazy Horse.
Oh my God, incredible.
It sounds so amazing. And when people talk about like, oh, when Bob Dylan was at Royal Albert Hall and the thing was so loud, and then you go like listen to it and you're just kind of like, okay, I get how this would bug people, but it's like, I remember those things being described as like, you thought you were gonna hear like a Pussy Galore record or something, the way people would talk about. the raging cacophony of Bob Dylan with the band on stage, and then you listen to it. It's like rock. It's rock music. It's just rock. It's just electrified rock music. But the guitar sound on this record is so relentlessly ugly and sludgy that it's like it is new territory in its own way, especially for some dude who was a veteran of this. He's going harder and more unrelenting with that guitar sound. It's punishing like the hey hey my sound with that solo. It really is. It's otherworldly that's what he's doing with his guitar in terms of the degree of messiness. And it's a guy who can play. He's an acoustic guitar. He's playing it like the greatest singer songwriter you ever heard. He's there with it locked in, but he just knows the power of just the just that rawness, and that ugliness is just, he loves leaning all the way into it. And man, it is something else.
Like
Yeah,
the chords sound like Neubauten at times. Like, it sounds like
absolutely.
metal on metal. And yeah, and I just love that the concert just, and I think that's probably what they did with Stop Making Sense. They're like, we want something that keeps building onto
Yeah.
building, onto each element,
Hmm.
and we're going to stack things on top of each other. This film does that, but it also takes its time. There are shots in I'm a Child, one shot, 2 minutes and 12 seconds just from behind. Like, a
Yeah,
lot of the film is silhouettes, really grainy film, and it just kind of sits there. And I never knew if that was an economic choice, a creative choice. Like, what was the coverage like? Because some of the choices are what they decide to put in. They just stay on things, but they're beautiful. Like, they're like a painting.
absolutely. That's a great way of putting it. It really is the kind of presentation where he's showing you, it feels like he's showing you what it feels like to put on a show, to be at a show. The audience, you never see faces in the audience. It's just like the audience is just an ocean of people. They'll show the audience, they're never going close on people. It's just an ocean of heads all adding up to this giant body out there. And he's shooting things from behind those fake amps through them, which they're clearly made of some sort of diaphanous cloth. So, because he's shooting through it, so you're literally seeing fibers for certain camera angles. It's not conventionally filmed at all. You're seeing the stage, you're seeing the building, you see crew members walking back and forth behind it. It's like he wasn't hesitating to show you what goes into putting on a show, and like what a concert is from a production standpoint. It's like, yeah, when you're doing a turnaround, going from solo acoustic to a four-piece rock band, it takes some time. So he takes the time. He doesn't, it's the easiest thing in the world would have been to just cut away to the crazy horses on stage.
Right.
But he lets it hang for minutes. You're watching everybody set stuff up, and it's kind of, it sets a rhythm with it that I just always like. That's Neil Young to me, is that he's showing you the part that nobody else would show you, and he's going, and he's not flinching with it. He rides that between song footage. It's nuts how much it's showing the crew setting the stage up. And the crew, most of them are in the Jawa Star Wars costumes as roadies. Then there are people in lab coats walking around. There's somebody with a cone head on, which is the
Yes.
Saturday Night Live cone heads. There's another guy with a old man mask and a wheelchair on the side of the stage. It's this weird presentation that another one of the great things about Neil Young, if it makes sense to Neil, it's going in the thing. Like
Yes.
I don't know if he's ever said, well, I love this, but I don't know if an audience can hang with this. So I'm just going to hold off on putting this out. If anything, he did the opposite. He would hold back on commercial records and say, this is not where I'm at right now. I don't feel like putting this. Some of the stuff he's released over the last bunch of years, he's going so deep into putting the archives out and
Yeah.
really, really kind of clearing the vaults and restructuring stuff. And then you start to just realize this guy has albums that he didn't put out that are as good as anybody's real album. He just sat on them because
Yeah,
he was
Chrome
just like,
Dreams. Is
Chrome
that the
Dreams.
one? It's
Yes,
incredible.
homegrown Chrome Dreams.
Incredible.
He's sitting on these things and he'll pull tracks from here. Oh, this song showed up on another album. That song showed up
Right.
here in a different version. But he's not he truly goes where he wants to go. And it's one of the most inspirational things to see somebody who doesn't he's not he knows when it's time, like I said earlier, he knows when it's time to do something that might sell more units, but it's still him. But he doesn't stay there because, well, they'll want more of it. Well, if they like one acoustic album, well, I'm going to do 3 acoustic albums, and it's just like, well, no, he's like, no, I'll do acoustic albums that are crowd pleasing and the most mainstream things I'm doing, but I'm doing a whole lot before and after them. You can't just get that from me. So many other artists would be like, this is what people want from me, so this is what we do now. Like
Right.
he hits on the formula with Harvest, where it's like country rock, acoustic with a band, and but then he just turns his back on that because he's just like, well, I did that. Why would I do that again? I did it. I don't want to do it now, so he doesn't do it.
Yeah, it's also weird when he steps away from Crazy Horse because he does that with them too. He's like, I've made a Crazy Horse thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to work with someone else.
Yes, he'd go throw another band together. He would go play with session people. He honestly just did whatever made sense to him in that moment is what he did. And the idea that this guy was able to have a career at the scale that he's had it for the amount of time he's had it, and he really did what he wanted to do is it's one of the most all-time legendary career. Yeah, I wanted to say baller move, but it's bigger than that. It's like it is a dedication to making stuff on your own terms.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk to you about the magic of Crazy Horse because as a latecomer to Neil Young, I just cherish this album and this film because just watching like the body language of is it Billy who's the bass player Billy
Billy Talbot,
yeah
yeah,
just one of the coolest people to watch on stage just
hmm
hunched over
yeah,
banging his head and I love the way that like somebody sings back up here and then somebody else is going to do it and even the
hmm
drummer does it but they all kind of have this Crazy Horse sound.
hmm
Is it Neil that's leading the magic in Crazy Horse, or is it the combination? Like, is it like if I just don't know what makes them so interesting because they sound at times like they're playing
hmm
in reverse. It's like the weirdest tempo, but it
hmm
works.
everything. If it happens, Neil's the one who decided it happens.
Okay.
He's not. I really. He is this. His will, I think, is second to nobody's in terms of he rolls in and just this is one of the most like, ironic examples of decision making and an example of Neil's power. Buffalo Springfield was Neil and Stephen Stills, and the band breaks up. Neil is starting to do this solo career. Nobody's really too excited about the first album. Meanwhile, Stills goes, talks to David Crosby, who just got booted from the Byrds, and Graham Nash, who wants to leave the Hollies, and they put together Crosby, Stills, and Nash. They put their album out. It's enormous, their album. Like that first Crosby, Stills, and Nash album is gigantic, and just Neil was nowhere near that level of success at that point. He just wasn't. Like but then they're like, oh well, we want to tour, so we need another guitarist up here. We need more musicians. We can't just do it as the three of us. They contemplated John Sebastian at one point, a couple other people. Stephen Stills, who had a contentious dynamic with Neil in Buffalo Springfield, says, well, what if we go get my old buddy Neil to do it? It's like, Stephen, you just, biggest mistake you ever made. Neil comes on as, they wanted him to just be a player at first, and he's like, well, no, I want my name on it. And then, so it's Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. That record goes stratospheric. That's like, whatever that. I don't like Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. I like Young. I just, those records do nothing for me. Graham Nash stuff is just bad Paul McCartney to me. Stills is an incredibly talented guy, amazing player. I admire all that. His production ability is amazing.
Yeah.
But he's just not Neil. He doesn't understand the magic of just the messy part of these things. And David Crosby really doesn't understand it.
No.
Neil joins Crosby, Stills, and Nash. They blow up now, and within no time at all, he's running Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. It all goes through him now. Stills finally had this thing that he was in charge of, because he was in charge of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. They add Neil, and Neil takes the reins, and he's in charge of this thing now. It runs through him. And when he leaves to go do other stuff, CSN versus CSNY. CSNY plays football stadiums.
Yes.
CSN plays basketball arenas, hockey arenas. It's just multiply it by 5 when Neil's there in terms of the audience appeal. So now they know they need this guy. And then he joins them, goes off and does Harvest, puts a record out arguably as big as the CSNY album, if not bigger. I'm not sure what the sales are, but still massive records. Those guys sing on the record, and it just becomes clear he might love these guys, he might think they're amazing people, whatever his relationship is as friends and fellow human beings. Artistically, they are only as important to him as what he needs in any given moment for what he wants to do.
Right.
If he's doing Harvest, it would be great if we got Steve and Graham in here to sing backup on a song. Just like they fit, he uses it, and then goes on and does his thing. It's just like, and he comes back to him when he wants, and he leaves when he wants. He did a tour in '76 with Stills. It was the Stills Young Band. It's probably the worst thing Neil did in the '70s. Easily the worst thing he did in the '70s. It's just his record that's Stills was clearly driving the bus on. Long May You Run is on it. There's good Neil moments throughout, but it's still not anywhere near what he was doing when he was a solo act. he just he left that tour midway. He didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
He left the tour and he left a note for Stills that basically said, "Eat a peach, Neil," and he left. He just left the tour. Cancel the rest of the dates. Neil's not here anymore.
Yeah.
He go and look, that might look, if I was in the touring band, I would not be a fan of Neil Young for that. Like that would not be fun to be on the wrong end of Neil's uh flights of fancy and
Sure.
his indulgence of whims. I'm sure a lot of people got hurt in the wake of this guy's
Yeah.
but I'm not one of them. I'm just a
Yeah.
fan. And what he did was what he was focusing on is and trying to build is the thing that I have, which is the catalog.
Right.
And I'm glad he did the things he did and didn't just, well, there were no Neil solo albums for 6 years because he was busy doing Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. They did, 3 albums and big tours. It's like, no, he stayed with his thing and did not go off course. He just went where he wanted to go. And yeah, it's just he is just and so if he's doing that to Crosby, Stills and Nash, what do you think he's doing to Ralph Molina and Billy Talbot? It's just like they're going where this guy says to go,
Yes.
and he's just saying, "Well, we're not feeling it now," and then they don't work together for 6 years,
Right.
and then the phone rings. Think we should do Crazy Horse again. So then they come back and they do it, and it's amazing. And then maybe they do a little more, and then he's done with it, and he goes somewhere else, and they're not a part of it. He's the constant in his own story all the time. It's like
Yeah.
he's the host of this whole thing. Everybody else around him might change. Neil is Neil, unflinchingly, and he's been doing it for over 50 years. So and he's still doing it.
Well, Steven Stills, didn't do many favors. Wasn't it a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young tour where he played extra long his portion of the set because Dylan was there, and he was just like, I'm going to extend the set, and the next day all the other members didn't show up at the stadium they were going to
Yes.
play. Like,
They were, well, these shows were going, these were endless shows now because the 4 of them are doing their things and then they all have their solo turns
right.
during it. I mean, these concerts must have been endless because it's like seeing a full CSNY show and then a mini David Crosby concert, a mini Graham. It's like there was so much ego in the air at that point,
Yeah.
and Stills was always coming in second behind Neil. And then he wanted to show what he could do. I can't exactly remember the story, but I think you're right. He went off and he was just showcasing himself to impress Dylan, and everybody was so pissed at him for that. So yeah.
Incredible power move to just be like, we don't need the millions for this next show. We'll just see ya.
Stills couldn't do what Neil did also. Stills had Manassas, this super group.
Right.
That these were, if you listen to those records, holy moly, those are so produced and so ambitious, and they just are, they have their champions. I don't get it. They just it sounds hollow to me. The whole thing sounds hollow.
Yeah. Well, Neil's a weirdo too. I mean, that's the difference. I mean, David Crosby was weird too in his own way, but I don't know. There's something about discovering all these different areas where Neil went. Even I remember as a kid hearing about trans and people, at the height of New Wave, him doing this vocoder stuff and revisit. Doesn't he do like one of his older songs in a vocoder?
He does Mr. Soul vocoder style. Yeah. Trans definitely, when trans came out, there were not, it was when he left Reprise Warner Records and went to Geffen, he suddenly clicked into this really weird stretch where the first album on this new label is him singing through a vocoder. The next album is him doing a rockabilly record. The next record is him doing this just like country. He's a country artist and like a traditionalist now. And I mean, the thing you have to realize during this stretch, Neil had so much to deal with. He a child who was struggling with like a lot of neurological. I'm not exact. I can't remember exactly. I'm not going to misdiagnose or misrepresent. Communication was a huge part of the thing that he could not bridge the gap with his son and with both his sons. And then he said in retrospect that trans was him. That's how, like, it was like the machines, he was using the machines to talk to his kid in his own way. It was almost like trying to come up with a language that would make sense. Yeah, and then he kind of got really twisted during the Reagan. Old Ways is a really crappy out. Old Ways sucks. I think it's the worst Neil Young album. Old Ways.
And when did that come out? That
85.
And that is that the
prime Reagan. Yeah, like
okay.
And then they were like, "Oh, well, let's do we want you to do a more conventional Neil Young album." So he does this record, Landing on Water.
Oh yeah.
Which is, there's great songs on Landing on Water. The production, Neil was at the height of thinking that Fairlight synthesizers and recording digitally and all that stuff, that was the road for him at that point.
Right.
And it's not, there's a great record underneath a lot of that stuff.
Sure.
And you hear those things in other forms and they're great songs. He was still writing great songs. The execution was what was lacking on it. So, and then the Geffen deal, Geffen sues him for making records that were not Neil Young records, which is the most defining thing that ever happened to him. And the idea that somebody would try to tell him what a Neil Young record is. And the ultimate screw you is he goes back, signs with Warner Brothers again, and then just hands them, he decides to suddenly hand them Freedom, Ragged Glory,
yes,
and Harvest Moon. Boom, boom, boom. He just is like, well, I'll do a sequel to Harvest now. That's like, Freedom has Keep on Rockin' Free World. Ragged Glory is like Crazy Horse, tapped right back into it. Harvest Moon is the sequel to his biggest album. It's just like he wouldn't give Geffen the things. He just was. It's almost like, well, if you would have been nice to me, I would have given you what you wanted, but you weren't, so you didn't get it. Yeah, it's really, and the cover of Life, which is one of the final Geffen albums, it's like a wall of a prison, and it has the way prisoners mark the passing of time. That's him marking his time on Geffen is on the cover of the Geffen album. It's just like,
it's a punk move, man. It's so great, like to just be like, all right, you have me, but you don't have me,
Yeah, exactly. It's nuts. And it's just one of the most inspirational careers and people that just, the way he operates, he's never done anything for anybody else.
Well, so you had Live Rust, you had Rust Never Sleeps, but how did you get access to seeing the movie?
I saw it years later. I must have rented it. I never seen it in a theater, which I really wish I could get to see this in a theater.
It's kind of amazing they haven't put it out or anything like that.
He'll do these. He did a film festival at one point. He was playing all his movies. Yeah, it's just not. It's not in circulation the way I would hope it would be. I don't know if that's a legal thing. I don't know.
So these were one of the few VHS tapes you could find in a video store in the music section. It'd be like a Cars video collection, Rust Never Sleeps, Erga Music War, maybe.
Erga Music War, the Duran Duran videos thing with all the dirty videos on it. The long version of Girls on Film.
It's
that
the
is basically softcore pornography.
those video store
Um,
music sections were killer because it was like
yeah.
2 aisles, and it was often they'd put in some, maybe some exercise tapes in there or some
Hmm.
sports
Yeah.
bloopers with it. It's
And yeah, and then there would always be this like Dire Straits videotape. It
yes,
was like the videos of Dire Straits, like, okay,
Romeo and
I don't care
Juliet,
about,
sweet.
yeah,
Wow.
Twisting by the Pool.
Yeah,
Finally, I get to watch that video over and over.
but yeah, Neil's taking some big swings in it. He has the part where is this a known person who comes out with the telling people to put on the Rust Division?
That's one of the few spots, Chris, that I'm not clear on what's going on there
Right.
with that guy. Is yeah, I'm not sure. I'm blanking on who that is.
Yeah,
And
I can't figure it out either. He basically comes out and tells everyone, "You're going to watch Neil Young and Crazy Horse Rust right here on stage. Put on your glasses." So I'm assuming the concert goers were given glasses as well.
they were given 3D glass because I think part of it is in 3D.
That's weird because I just haven't noticed. But to me, I thought it was just kind of a joke. He's like, "Put on your glasses and you're going to see the band, but they're just
Hmm.
there." You know what I mean? Like, and again, Neil loves comedy. He loves his own brand of
Yeah,
comedy.
that's if Neil has an Achilles heel, and I don't think I'm going to go back on what I said. I don't think the movie had a 3D portion. I think it was just an in concert thing because I don't know what part would look like it was in 3D. I'm just going to assume that was just a joke in the theater or something.
Yeah,
So
I think
yeah,
so.
I didn't mean to misrepresent the movie I'm saying is the
Oh,
best. Um, yeah,
you're gonna Neil's gonna take you out the
he's
archives
gonna
now. You'll try to go in there
gonna
tomorrow. He'll
get
be like,
booted.
"No,
No,
denied."
please, Neil, let me back. I've spent $15,000 on you over the years.
What is it about Neil Young's sense of humor, like in Human Highway, in this
It's
film?
bad.
He's like a goofball, but I feel like his banter these days is pretty spot on, and he's kind of charming.
Yes.
And but it's like there's this early period where I don't know. I just feel like he feels like he's like a not ready for prime time player or something.
Yeah, I would say that's when we can maybe factor in drugs where
Yeah, on so far, one of my favorite things was you said, "Which member of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young has ever done cocaine off a horse?"
uh-huh.
And you guys spent a good amount of time being, well, definitely Crosby. That's a given. But it was,
Yeah. No, that Neil liked his drugs and was a big proponent of something called honey slides, which were, what if you take honey and marijuana and fry it up in a pan, and you supposedly are supposed to get so high off that it's like you've entered another dimension. Like, it seems like people were getting troublingly high off honey slides.
oh,
Yeah.
he hasn't marketed that. That's kind of amazing. I'm surprised Neil hasn't gone into the CBD
Man, at this
world.
point, it's like he could slap his name on a honey slides thing.
Oh, he'd be
But it
rich.
wouldn't be, well, he is rich already, I would say.
Yeah, well, okay,
I
yeah,
think
that's true.
I
He
don't
could
think
be rich.
finally maybe
Okay,
this will make Neil
I'm
have a lot of money.
I'm getting kicked out of the archives now.
Yeah, we're both of us are outside looking in now. Um, no, the whole thing with, if you go to a dispensary, these things are sold in very, very controlled quantities where it's just like, well, you can't have more than 100 milligrams in a package of whatever it is. Like,
Right.
so you're getting 10 gummies at 10 milligrams each. It's just like these honey slides were operating on a whole other level from that, though. You couldn't sell them. They're too strong.
The album and the movie is just it just never lags. And I just wanted to ask you about a couple songs specifically.
Yeah.
I think Powderfinger, which that was unreleased at the time, right?
Well, when he's doing it live, yeah. Powderfinger is a song he had floating around in his it just trying to find the right place for Powderfinger. Powderfinger comes up on a lot of these archival releases now in previous iterations, but Rust Never Sleeps is where it finally found a home.
What songs in the film like just move you?
Oh well, Powderfinger's for me top three Neil Young songs. That just is it's to me it's the absolute greatest. And yeah, I mean Powderfinger's so way up there. The end when he does, hey hey my is still like we're talking about the heaviness of that is just amazing. There's something really sweet of him doing a lot of love, which he wrote for Nicolette Larson. He does that live because he wrote the song. And I don't know if that's his only is that his only version of that. I don't know if that ever came out on anything else. His version, a lot of love. I don't know if there's a studio version of it. But there's a really kind of vulnerable version of that, which is sweet. Oh no, it's on a lot of it's on Comes a Time. What am I thinking here? It's yeah, of course.
There's a lot.
There's so much. People just look at the catalog and realize how I could forget.
Powderfinger is just beautiful. Like you said, it is he's really simple in his language,
Yeah.
but it is just devastating. And at the same time, it's that thing where like if you don't really listen to it, you could just be pumping your fists in the air like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love this
Yeah.
song. Yeah.
Mhm.
But you can also sit on a couch and just have a hard rock song destroy you.
Absolutely. No, it's a epic, and some of the lyrics in it are so just like he writes like from the point of view of the character. It's just like, you know, just the idea that Big John's been drinking since the river took Emmy Lou. It's just like that tells us so the powers that be left me here to do the thinking. So he's alone with the gun defending uh his family's, you know, he's defending from an attack. Yeah, it's just like that's the highest of high watermarks for him. When he comes back and does When You Dance I Could Really Love is amazing because it's just like then you realize it's just like, oh, this is where we're going with this. It's not acoustic anymore. That's the first electric thing in the movie.
What about some of the weirder songs like Sedan Delivery
Sedan Delivery, yeah, that's what was the other one? Sorry.
or Welfare Mothers that are
Welfare
kind of
Mothers.
like
Well,
sludgy stompers?
yeah. I mean, Sedan Delivery is grunge.
Totally.
It literally is. It's not even proto grunge. It is the template right there for the whole thing. Stop, start, slow, fast.
It invented college rock.
Yes, in that moment he invented college rock.
Yes.
Um, the version of Tonight's the Night that ends the whole thing is just a killer version of it. And in the movie, it's the only time you see the audience. Like they throw the light. It's the lights are up for that. You can finally see
Right.
bodies in the audience. They like are shooting it from like 15 rows back, and you see the swarm of the crowd because they turn the house lights up for the final song. It's just such a great version, and his guitar on that sounds just otherworldly. Again, it's like he's doing his version of almost like I'm never gonna say like, oh, Neil Young and Adrian Belew were ever doing the same thing, but in terms of saying like, hey, I want to see what I can make a guitar sound like they are, like he's definitely seeing what he can do with a guitar in terms of Adrian Belew used to like to make his guitar sound like an elephant. Well, Neil's doing that too, but he's just not saying it out loud.
Right.
So to him, he's making Neil Young music.
It's weird because, you're talking about how audiences want to hear the hits, but this what they capture in this film and on these albums is really the split in Neil and people being okay with it at this moment in time.
Hmm.
Because it feels like at other times, like people are like, I want acoustic Neil right now. I need that. And other people are like, I want a crazy horse time. So it is,
You get all of
yeah, it's kind of a weird, and it works so well. Just the way, like you said, the way when they come in with Crazy Horse finally, it makes sense. And then it gets delicate again at certain points. And then it gets
it.
uglier.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then for them, yeah, to do the encore of, Tonight's the Night is just like, it's just such a good send off.
Yeah, he really wasn't. It's like his interests are so wide ranging in terms of what he wants to do with music. And this is one of the few access points where he's doing them at the same time. He's like
Yes.
he's giving you all the versions of things in the same album. Like there's quiet albums with loud songs on it to a degree, but this is like a side A, side B. You
Yes.
get an acoustic, folky side, and a hard rock side, and it it really was one of his most acclaimed records. Like this is like when he would like clean up in the Paz and Jop poll. Like
Right.
Russ Never Sleeps, I was pretty high on that if I remember.
Yeah, it's weird. I was looking, it went to number 8 on the Billboard charts, which shows how hard it was to get to number 1 back then. It was like the other things that were in front of it could be like Candio by the
Hmm.
Cars, Cheap Trick, Live at
Yeah.
Budokan, I Am Earth, Wind and Fire, Breakfast in America, Supertramp. Huge albums. And he comes up with a huge album. Like everyone just had massive albums
Yeah.
if you were in the top 10.
And that's when records they sold
Yes.
back then. Like when
Yes.
you get to number 8 on the Billboard charts in the late 70s, you're you're moving units big time. Like
Yes.
those are you're just like, yeah, that's not even that it's a very different than it is now. You're making that's how you're getting rich, and that's how all these performers got rich was back at that time. I just looked it up. It's Russ Never Sleeps was second in the Paz and Job polls for 1979. So
Who was number 1?
I'm gonna look that up now. Let's see. 79. Let's see, take a guess. Let me hear see if you can guess.
Well, it's definitely not Duty Now for the Future.
No.
Um, 79. I don't know. What do you got?
Graham Parker, Squeezing Out Sparks.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think that's better than Rust Never
No, it's a good
Sleeps?
album. I don't think it's better though.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it's good, but so I wanted to ask you, I know you've seen Neil Young a bunch, but
Mm-hmm.
you got to see him perform at the Roxy over the
Yes.
last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Oh, that was one of the greatest things I've ever gotten to see. It was he was doing a thing for charity for the anniversary of the Roxy, the club in West Hollywood. It it was a lottery, 2 nights, and they weren't saying what he was gonna play at it, but it was Neil with Crazy Horse or whatever Crazy Horse is now, which is kind of like couple old members, couple new members. Like Willie Nelson's kid, Micah Nelson, is a big player with Neil now, and he was in this. Um, I entered the drawing, didn't get my number pulled. Then my friend Nicole Lawrence, who's an amazing musician, she's like, "Hey, I just got a reply from them. Did you get one?" I'm like, "No." And then she was she said, "Well, you can be my +1, not +1, and we were paying to get in. She's like, you can use a second ticket. The tickets were really, they were not cheap at all because it was all charity and
Right.
it was going to a good cause. Whatever. I would have paid whatever I pay. I would have done more than that to see what I got to see that night. Because the Roxy only holds 500, 400 people, whatever it holds,
Wow.
300 people.
God.
I don't know. It's like, so then we line up, we get in there, they do a temperature test with the thing, make sure nobody's got running a fever. And I was so nervous at that point. I was like, if I get this close
Oh
to
my
getting in that building
God.
and I have a fever, I will shoot myself. Like
Yes.
so, but, and the gun wasn't working when the person's trying to do my thing. And then finally they were just like, just go. Like,
Whoa.
so I was like, thank you. And I'm sure I didn't have a fever, but I was not sick. Get in there. I'm 6, Nicole and I are 6 feet from the stage, if that.
Mhm.
There may be 2 people in front of us each. Just waiting. Curtain opens up. It's Neil. He is, you could, I could spit gum at him and I would have hit him. Like I could have easily
Right.
hit him with, like throwing a rock is one thing. I'm telling you, I could have like spit a wad of gum at him and it would have hit him. Like that's how close he was. He plays, they play all of Tonight's the Night, the whole album. Unbelievable. Like you cannot believe you're seeing it. He's in great voice. He's playing piano. He's playing guitar. You're so close to his Old Black as his legendary guitar. You're just like looking at, you can see the details on this thing. And you could see Neil's fingers on the strings. Like just, you could really pay attention to the micro elements to this. And um and Tonight's the Night is one of the all-time great albums,
Yes.
and he's playing all of it. These are songs he's not doing live on when he's out there. These are beyond deep cuts. They're cuts that don't get played live. That's like how deep they are.
Right.
They're out of the rotation even for deep cuts. They play Tonight's the Night, and then they play Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere in its entirety. And it's just like, because then it's like, what's he gonna play? What's he gonna play? And then
Right.
suddenly you hear, and everybody's like, whoa, like
Oh my
not.
God.
And I think I kind of knew what he was gonna. I think I read online, so I was not as in the dark, but I wasn't telling. It feels like I'm remembering this now in retrospect. It's not like I memorized my Neil Young story, but I was not. We were. It was. I was not telling anybody what was going to do because people wanted to be surprised, and
Right.
it was as surprising as it gets. Him doing those 2 albums in amazing form, just beyond great. And I've seen bands at Maxwell's that I couldn't get that
Yes,
close.
exactly. I was gonna say Big
Like,
Dipper.
yeah, I saw there were Big Dipper I saw, and I could not get as close to the stage as I was for this stage.
What? Well, being that close and being in Neil's vicinity,
Mm-hmm.
where does Neil Young look when he's singing? Does he close his eyes? Does he stare into the back? Like, what is his?
If I remember correctly, he's kind of looking past the audience a little bit.
Okay.
He was not like making eye contact with everybody. He's
Right.
kind of looking above us. And he's also looking at the people on stage with him. He's paying attention to his fellow bandmates. And Nils Lofgren was in the band too, because at that point,
Wow.
he was like in a late addition because Springsteen had health problems and they canceled all the fall shows. And so Nils was like, hey, I'm around. So he joined. He was up there playing too. It was just a dream come true. And I will never see Neil Young live again because this, it will never come near that. Everything else will
Yeah.
fall short of this. So I feel like the universe took care of me on this one. As one of the first people I was into, the universe said, you're going to get to see this guy play stuff he usually doesn't play, as close as you could humanly be to the stage. And yeah, I'll buy the records. I'm never gonna go live. And unlike the shows with people yelling "old man" and stuff, these were obviously hardcore fans
Yeah.
who were just, wherever he takes us, we're going. It's just like, because if he started playing Tonight's the Night live when I saw him at the Greek, people would not have been happy with that. They would have been, why is he
Right.
playing? I don't know these songs. Well, it's like, well, then listen to the album. It's like, these are major works, you idiots. These are not,
Yes.
these are like, this is one of our all-time major artists, and
Yeah.
this is his major works he's doing in front of us. Why would you question that or think you're entitled to something different than that? Just mind-boggling.
Yeah. Rock can do that to people. You know, like,
I mean, you played with Bob, and Bob would regularly, new album comes out, he's playing the next one already.
absolutely.
He's tired of the one that just came out a week ago. And it's
Yes.
like, well, I'm going to give you a taste of what you're going to get 8 months from now. And you're
Yes.
just like, okay, I'm here for the ride. I'm along for the ride. Show me what you got. He's actually a weird parallel to Neil Young in attitude, in terms of nobody's telling Bob what to do.
Absolutely.
And if you told him what to do, he would literally do the opposite of it,
Right.
just to show you he's in control. And he should. That's like, if you're in the presence of somebody at that level, you should let them operate. It's like if you go to one of these restaurants, with the high-end restaurants, and the chef takes you on a journey that they determine. You don't flip through a menu and order what you want, or say, oh, could you do this but with the white sauce instead of the red sauce? Like,
Right.
it's like, no, you go where they want to take you, because they're at the highest level. And I'm glad GBV found a fan base as dedicated and enthusiastic as they did. But with that there's baggage that comes with that too. Now there's
Yeah.
a certain amount of entitlement, a
Yes.
certain amount of parasocial come up with that. There's a certain amount of, I know more about this band than you do, ends up there.
But joining that band,
Mhm.
that
Oh
was
yeah,
hard. People were like, I don't like you. I like
sure,
Tim.
yeah,
Where's
yeah,
Tim?
yeah.
And
Where's
you're
Tim? Well,
like, I
Tim's not here.
I just joined my favorite band.
Yes,
Sorry.
yeah,
And then I know Bob. Bob said I could come back here. Well, Bob's told Doug and myself
yeah,
tonight to be the people to not let people
yeah,
come back.
yeah.
We're like,
The whole,
sorry, you know,
the
it
whole
was just
point. Yeah, you think Bob's going to say no to you, Bob?
right.
You're putting him in a position with this stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's the GBV thing is actually the opposite of the Neil Young thing, in a way, where people are like, there's a certain faction who, it feels like there was 10% of that crowd who always wanted, it's like, deeper, go deeper, like,
Yes.
deeper. Something
Yes.
off this 3 a suitcase. I want to hear something off
Yes.
Suitcase.
Yes.
Like that's what they wanted. They were like, oh, here we go. Here are the hits.
Yes.
Heard them before.
Oh, I'm a
I want to,
scientist.
yeah.
Oh God.
Why would you you're getting mad at these these songs that were, I mean, they weren't chart hits, but they were hits for people who cared. Those are the hits.
Yeah.
And somebody being like, well, I guess you got to listen to him play Motor Away tonight. It's like one of the all-time great
Popular
songs.
song. That song that everybody knows.
Everybody knows, everybody loves it. It's perfect. And now you just are tolerating it because he's not playing something off Same Place Fly Got
Yes.
Smashed.
Yes.
Like, well, okay, sorry. That's
No, it was a trip because, I didn't really get to do I didn't get to really put my stamp on anything till like the Boston Spaceship stuff.
yeah.
and the takeovers. And by then people would come up to me and be like, "Oh, dude, you're good job. Like
Yeah.
you had it in you," was basically their attitude. And I was like,
Cool.
"I'm the
Thank you.
same guy."
Yeah. No,
But
that's
at the same time, I was also one of those people before I joined the band too. I
hmm
was the person who was like, "Deeper. Yes,
hmm
I'm going to go close to the sun." There was something about that band that made
yeah.
people really want to try to get as close as they could to Bob's orbit, I guess is the best way to say
Yeah.
it. And a lot of people fell in the pit, you know, like they just couldn't make it to the stage.
Yeah. It's gonna have there's an element of reality that enters the picture, and you're ultimately, as an audience member, you might have this bond with the performer, but if the performer is being truthful to themselves, you might not get what you want to get from them on any given night, because if they're an artist that's at a high level, you should want them to go where they go. Like, let
Yeah,
them go where they. And the thing is, maybe sometimes you're going to see a show that was off the mark. Maybe one didn't work because they went after something, they didn't catch it.
right.
Like, could you imagine there's all these, like, it's all like with jazz, there must have been nights where, I'm not saying like, I think John Coltrane probably had a perfect batting average with delivering on things. But as like people making jazz and going where, like, doing it in the moment, there must just be nights where we didn't have it, and maybe one guy didn't have it or another person didn't have it. There must just be nights where the law of averages, none of us had it tonight, and that wasn't very good. Like, somehow we did not we were on the runway the whole show, we didn't
Oh
take
yeah.
off. It's just, it has to happen, but if people aren't playing by those rules, then you never get the nights where you're like, that was the most magical thing I've ever seen in my
Yeah.
life, because I saw something special and it's not what I expected, and it took me somewhere that I was not expecting to go.
Well, it's got to be like that for you doing what you do for so long too, where you just, I know that you have so much you want to say within 3 hours because you're such a good storyteller. You've got the stuff with John planned. You don't know where the phone calls are going to go.
hmm
You don't know how necessarily how long an interview might go. Um, it's got to have kind of a similar feeling where you can't always be like, I'm going to know like where this is going to go and how I'm going to feel at the end of the night.
The beauty of doing the show for me is, I mean, I know what works, and I know when something is, we're going out on the ledge to see if it does work or not. And it's just like, if it's like, if I've been doing it this long, I couldn't have gotten anywhere near this if we were just holding to a set formula with things. The magic would have run out so many years ago. So
Right.
now it's just mix things up, try new things. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes they do work. Sometimes the promise of it working is in there, and you can keep going, and we'll chase after something and get closer to it next time. I just, like, that's the part of it that makes me want to keep coming back for my thing, is that if I'm doing it right, I'm one step ahead of the audience, and I'm trying to give them what they need more than what they might think they want, if that makes sense. And that sounds
Yeah.
kind of arrogant, but it's like, I got to go somewhere with this thing. Um, yeah, the truth of the matter is, I don't get paid enough to be doing this thing. I got a 5 hanging on my age for a while now. And for me to still be doing it, I got to get something out of this too.
Right.
So, and I do. And I do get something. I get so much out of it. And it's because we go where it takes us.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of a spectator sometimes with the show too.
Yeah. I mean, hey, sometimes you got to say goodbye to whip talk. You know, what are you going to do?
Well, whip talk comes, whip talk goes as fast as it showed up. Maybe it'll come back. I don't know. And that's the beauty of it. Next week, I
Yes.
could say, you know what? let's bring Whip Talk back. There's no set thing. I have a notebook. I write things in it that we're going to do on the show, and I'm the one writing them in. I'm not loading it into a set. It's not Saturday Night Live where, oh, you could set your watch to when Weekend Update comes on. You set your watch to when the second song from the band comes on, and that's a highly structured thing, and that's not what I'm interested in. But I'm not interested in the randomness for the sake of randomness. I'm just interested in going where something goes.
It's funny, I've only done 150 of these, Tom. It's so early, but it was so fascinating to change right away, because the first couple episodes, I was like, I have a guest here. They've picked out a film. I got to get to it. Their time is valuable. And then I just was like, I just want to talk to the people and kind of see where it goes. And sometimes we don't talk about the film as much. And I've had guests cry. I've had just weird, beautiful things. But a lot of it is just kind of, even though it's tied down by, somebody's love of music and film, it was really funny in just a short amount of time to just be like, oh yeah, I can't just be like, hey, so you're here from Elf Power and we're going to talk about Mark Bolan. When did you first see the film?
Sure. No, well, it's sometimes things are launching points for other things, and sometimes things are the thing. You do episodes where you just talk about the movies, and you do things where other things come up just in the course of conversation. That's when you're doing it right. So I'm glad you figured out something that deserves to be discussed.
Tom, thank you so much for coming on again. It's truthful. I'm a big fan of your work, what you and John do, and you bring so much joy to so many people. I hear people call up all the time and tell you that too. It really does mean a lot to have something that just 3 hours flies by with you. And now with the Rush Show, luckily I get another hour with you. But it has been a total treat to have you be almost half of my life as well. It's kind of incredible. Wow. So thank you.
That's a very kind and sweet way of putting it, and I appreciate that. And I don't take it lightly. So
excellent. Well, you might, after this last question, at the end of every episode, ask the same question, but I tailor it depending on what we're going to talk about. So on a scale from 4 to 87, with 4 being the lowest and 87 being the highest, how many roadies do you give Russ Never Sleeps, the film? 4 being the lowest and 87 being the highest.
I just need to go all the way to the top. 87. I don't know what else you could change in it.
It's a perfect film.
It's a perfect film, and it's its own film. There's nobody could do this film if they tried, because it's coming from the mind of a very weird, very talented guy who doesn't understand the meaning of no.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Tom. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Good to see you.
Oh, thanks so much. This was my pleasure, and thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate it. I've been excited about it for a while, and now we got to do it.
Excellent. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, my God. Yes. See you tomorrow, Chris.
Okay. Thank you for listening to Revolutions Per Movie. We release new episodes every Thursday on your favorite podcast app, and additional bonus episodes every Sunday on our Patreon. The show is a completely independent affair, so the best way to support the show is through our Patreon at patreon.com/revolutionspermovie, where you can get weekly bonus episodes and shows, exclusive limited edition flexi discs and records and CDs featuring guests that have appeared on the show, and other exclusive goods sent to you just for joining. You can follow us on social media at Revolutions Per Movie, and also find out more information about our various guests in the episode show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Bye!